All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else, and the video I'm bringing you today is going to be my Magicka Dragonknight build for the Markarth DLC. Now, before I dive into this build, I want to explain what it is before you get too far into it. This is not a best in slot build. I've talked a lot about how procs are more powerful. This is a no proc mag DK, so it's not going to be the easiest to pick up and learn. But Mag DK is one of my first classes. It's just a class that I enjoy to play. I prefer to play without procs. I know that this isn't best in slot, okay? But, I'm playing in hard mode. This is going to be a more difficult to play class because it's not, procs aren't as powerful. Stats aren't as powerful as procs, and for that reason this build isn't going to be as powerful as a proc based build. Now, with that being said, this is still a powerful build. I've posted some gameplay with it. It's very effective. It's got very high healing. You're tanky enough. I have pretty solid damage. Mag classes in general they lack damage across the board compared to Stam, and so you're always going to be kind of at a loss there. But this is the best that I can come up with, for the rules that I gave myself for running no procs, and that's what this is. So this is for a very select few people. This is just how I like to play Mag DK. Let's dive into the build. The first thing we're running Daedric Trickery. I've already talked about this build on my different commentary videos, but I'm going to go in depth in this one, kind of explain why I chose everything. We were running Sword and Board on the back bar, so we're back barring Daedric Trickery. I got Sturdy with a max health enchant, and I have the Sword with Decisive. Now, there are a lot of DKs that will either go defending, Nern, or powered back bar, and the choices come down to this. If you want bigger coags, powered will be very good. If you want powerful coags and you're going to slot a damage ability on your back bar, a lot of people go Nern. If you're running a set that gives you major heroism and on your back bar, I liked the idea of going decisive because Daedric Trickery is as follows: health, stamina, magicka. When you deal damage, gain one of 5 major random buffs for 21 seconds every 9 seconds. Eligible buffs are expedition, protection, mending, heroism, or vitality. So 5 major buffs attached to this skill. You can have up to 3 major buffs at the same time. So every 9 seconds, you're going to have a buff up for 21 seconds. Basically what I do is I apply my dots, and when I'm just cycling to my back bar, I proc a new buff. And so vitality and mending increase your healing by 10%, protection 10% damage mit, heroism is ulti-gen, expedition obviously makes you faster. And so everything here synergizes extremely well with a Dragonknight. This set would work on anything, but for a Dragonknight this set is amazing because major heroism is ulti-gen. Ulti-gen for a Dragonknight is sustain. And so this makes us tanky. This makes our coags extremely beefy. Some people have commented, I've hit 13k non-crit coags with this build. Coags in a lot better spot because they buffed it. It's in line with the other heals. But on any class, if you put Daedric Trickery on, you're going to have some silly scale breaker level healing. That's just what Trickery provides. It's a very, very nice set for that reason. So we're back barring Daedric Trickery. When I do pop heroism and I'm on my back bar, this decisive will generate me 1 more ultimate. Some people have done the math on it in the past. I think it was an old Gilliam the Rogue video that showed that decisive back bar is basically the same as Werewolf Hide. It's actually better than Werewolf Hide on the back bar, back when Werewolf Hide was an actual set. It's actually a lot of ulti-gen. So I want that. If you don't like that, like I said, defending powered Nern, do what you want. But yeah, I have Sturdy with a health enchant. And the reason we're going health on the shield is our coag scales off our missing health. We'll get a bigger heal the lower our health is. You will see, my buddy Blap likes to back bar. He used to back bar 2-piece endurance because, you get the 2-piece health bonus, and then he would put a health enchant. And so when you switch bars, your health bar will naturally be larger. And so you'll get bigger coags when you have more health on your back bar, and that will scale your coag more. It's a combination of your missing health as well as your spell damage. So putting a health enchant on the back bar just allows you to have those slightly bigger coags. That was more of a problem in the past when coag wasn't nearly as good. Coag is a lot more effective now, but I still like to do this for that reason, just to get them thicker coags. So yeah, Front bar, we're running Burning Spellweave. Now, I am running Sharpened with an Oblivion damage enchant. Now, we've had this conversation in my Discord. Keep in mind, guys, you know, I highly recommend going to the Discord if you have any questions or comments, but, you know, we have some pretty good discussions. Obviously, memes like any other Discord, but we had a discussion about the Oblivion enchant about a week ago. And the point is, you know, this is a high health meta. You know, people are running a lot of high health. Oblivion damage ignores people's resistances. It ignores their armor. It ignores their shield. It just is what it says it is. It doesn't crit. It doesn't do anything else. So this can do up to 4875 Oblivion damage. Now, this enchant against squishier targets will not be as good as like Shock or Flame or some other enchant that you can have on your bar. It's going to be slightly less effective against them. But when you start getting into 30, 35, 40k health range, Oblivion is going to do more damage in those enchants because it does ignore those resistances, and it also scales higher. You know, you can do up to 4875 Oblivion damage here, and it will always be what the number says it is. So if somebody has a high health pool, like a werewolf, or if somebody goes into clown form, or if somebody goes into vamp form, or something like that, and they have a bunch of health, like 60-70% of people in PvP right now, this Oblivion enchant is going to be quite effective. Now, try it for yourself. If you don't like it, you know, do what you got to do. If you go Infused on the front bar, I prefer Sharpened because Infused does not affect the enchant. What it does is it affects the cooldown. So if you put Infused on the front bar, you will proc the Oblivion enchant more often, but it won't make the enchant bigger like other things. So I prefer to just, you know, have Sharpened. That way all my skills get the bonus. Sharpened on the front bar is the best trait right now. Better than Nern, you know, in my opinion, better than Infused. I'd rather have that for all my abilities. My leaps are going to hit harder. My flame lashes will hit harder. I think Sharpen's the way to go. So yeah, we're running Burning Spellweave. If you haven't seen it, or if you're having a hard time farming it, I totally understand, but it's max Magicka spell damage, spell crit, and then when you deal damage with a flame damage ability, you apply the burning status effect to the enemy and increase your spell damage by 478 for 8 seconds. These effects can occur once every 12 seconds. So the reason I like Burning Spellweave is you can front bar it, which is what we're doing. We're front barring Burning Spellweave, and so when this procs, I can go to the back bar and I still get the spell damage on the back bar, which then increases my coags. Like I said, coag is a combination of your missing health as well as your overall spell damage. Spellweave is really nice for that reason. You can also use a set like Scathing Mage. It has a slightly shorter cooldown, but better uptime, potentially. You could also, if you guys have been farming, I'm going to do a shout out to my buddy Mad Hatton because he's been farming the Burning Spellweave Inferno for what seems like forever and he hasn't gotten it yet. If you don't run Burning Spellweave, or if you just can't get the farm and you still want to try a build like this, you can front bar Spriggans, or not Spriggans, Spinners. You can front bar Spinners. I've definitely done the Spinners versus Burning Spellweave in the past, and BSW is slightly better. Spinners is up all the time. You know, so if you have to do those turn and burn, Spinners is going to be better in those situations. Burning Spellweave will be better pressure because you get the guaranteed burning status effect, which also turns into sustain. Like, BSW will be the better set, but if you can't get your hands on it, you could still be effective with a set like Spinners. It's easy to go out and get. The 2, 3, and 4 pieces better with Markarth than this because this has a crit line, which is missing. So all that kind of stacks up. Spinners is not a bad option. If you don't have Spinners, or if you don't have the gold for it, you can go out and craft New Moon. I would not. I'm not a huge fan of New Moon on a Mag DK. I've definitely ran it in the past. I think I have my New Moon in here. Let me look. Yeah. So I've definitely ran New Moon in the past on a Mag DK. It's not too bad if you front bar it because of the 5% cost increase. The problem is if you try and double bar a set like New Moon, that 5%, Mag DK's abilities are very, very expensive. And so that's when it gets kind of rough. I'd rather run Spinners. I would rather not have the cost increase. Once you start adding up the cost increase, Spinners and New Moon are essentially the same, pretty damn close to the same for damage. So yeah, I do BSW. If you can't get BSW, I would do Spinners. You know, and if you want to set the transfers to the back bar, you could obviously front bar Clever Alchemist. You know, you could definitely front bar Clever Alchemist. You pop your potion on your front bar, and then you get that 675 spell damage on your back bar. You could do that too. There's a few options in case, you know, craftable options in case you can't get your hand on this sexy Inferno staff. So yeah, it is sexy though, guys. I mean, look at it. Look at it. It's gold. Yeah. Anyways, monster set. I am going to get some shit from the DK community. I'm running Balorg. I know Balorg is a faux pas among a lot a lot of DK's mains, they're going to be like, why aren't you running Bloodspawn? Why aren't you running Bloodspawn? Bloodspawn's the DK set. I get it. Balorg's a stronger set. It's just a stronger set. You can run Bloodspawn here 100%. But the problem is the problem with running no proc mag DK is your killing power isn't that high. You know, even when you run as much damage as I am on this build, your killing power, like, you're going to have a hard time killing a lot of people. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, if you're going to run no proc, you're still going to have a hard time killing people. And Balorg is the best bang for your buck monster set for just flat burst damage and nuking people. And so, if you want to be as bursty as possible, you have to run Balorg. Now, I did make some adjustments. Obviously, Bloodspawn gives you resistances. I changed my Mundus Stone, so I have those resistances all the time. We don't need the ulti gen, you know, as much, because we do have really good major heroism uptime and decisive. So Bloodspawn's big thing is it makes DKs tanky and it gives you sustain. Well, Trickery is just essentially a better version of Bloodspawn in a 5-piece on a back bar. So Trickery is just a better Bloodspawn, which that allows you to take off Bloodspawn and go for the higher damage option. And when you're weighing the power of monster sets, Balorg is more powerful than Bloodspawn. And so I would find a way to fit Balorg on your bar. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't wear Bloodspawn. Sometimes, you know, when I'm fighting in a 3 or 4 man group and I know we're coordinating ults well and we're timing things, I will take off Balorg and I will put on Bloodspawn, because, you know, we're in a 3 or 4 man group. I don't need as much individual damage. I need the tankiness and I need to sustain more, because I'm getting, you know, my cheek zerged off. So definitely run with both. People are going to ask, you know, why not Grottar? Why not Zahn? I mean, you could run those. You could run Scoria. But here's the thing with running procs. You know, what I've kind of found. The minute you run one proc, like Scoria or Zahn or Grottar, it's just better to run all procs. You know, like imagine each proc is like a gateway drug to more procs, you know? So if you do one gateway drug, you might as well just do all of them. So if you're going to wear Scoria or Grottar or Zahn, it's just more efficient to do that and then start throwing on Vatishrands and Overwhelming and Crimson and all these other sorts of sets. It's just better to start doing that. I have found once I throw on a proc, all my burst damage kind of disappears. It's really hard to line up bursts sometimes wearing, like, you know, you can't always time a Scoria proc with a leap. You know, sometimes it just doesn't coincide very well that way. Balorg, I know it's always going to be there when I leap. You know, it's going to be there. I can build up more ult. I can have up to 10k more pen and up to 500 more spell damage with this. If I wait it out, it will always be there for my burst. And I set up this mag DK to be bursty. And so proc sets are more of a wear you down, beat you up typically sort of thing. If you want to run them, fine. But then I would just throw in more procs, like I said. So yeah, we are running Balorg. I have 1 medium, 1 heavy. And then as far as gear goes, I was trying out a different set. That's why I have this health enchant. You're better off running prismatics on all pieces, but preferably prismatics on all pieces. I do have magic on some of the smaller pieces right now, but yeah, we're running 3 body Daedric Trickery, all light. This is a 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy setup. And then we have 1 piece BSW, and then we have a trainee piece for the max health bonus. So we're in a back bar 5-piece trainee. We're going to front bar 5-piece burning spellweave. We're going to have 1 piece trainee, back bar 5-piece trickery, front bar 5-piece BSW, 1 piece trainee with the monster set. And then we have 2 burning spellweave rings. 1 is arcane with a recovery enchant. 1 is bloodthirsty with a recovery enchant. And then we have the Malekith's Band of Brutality, which is bloodthirsty with a spell damage enchant. Now, there's a lot of choices you can choose for your rings. You know, if you're a different race, you know, I am a Breton. I've found Breton to be the best race for this specific build. The tankiness, the cost reduction, cost of abilities for Mag DK is very high. I tried Argonian. I've tried Dark Elf in the past. You can make all of them work. You just have to adjust your enchants. So if you're not a Breton, I would consider taking off this spell damage, and I would run an infused I would run a cost reduction glyph, or what I would do is I would, you know, like let's say you're a dark elf, you know, where I would start is I would go infused cost reduction right here on the necklace. I would go bloodthirsty with recovery. I would go bloodthirsty with recovery. Dark elf has built-in spell damage, so you're just swapping out the spell damage on the necklace or on the ring in this situation for the spell damage of your race. You know, Bretons obviously don't have spell damage, so we can add it to our jewelry. It doesn't really matter, guys. Like each race can kind of work. You know, if all the Magicka based races plus like Nord, all of them can work. You just have to mess around with the different recovery things. If you guys are like a Nord or you're an Argonian or a high elf or a dark elf and you're running this build exactly how I have it, you're not going to have the same success that I have because your racial passives are different than mine. So you're going to have to make adjustments. You have to look at the racial passives and go, wow, he's a Breton. He's got 8% cost or 7% cost reduction. Okay, well, I don't have cost reduction. I'm going to have to add cost reduction. I have spell damage on my race. He doesn't have spell damage on his race. So he's adding, okay, that's where I switch it. So those are the type of things that are trade-offs you're going to have to make for your specific thing. But yeah, it's definitely doable, you know, with a Nord, with an Argonian, with a high elf, with a dark elf. Like this build will work for anybody. You can obviously change your Mundus Stone as well. So I'm running all impen. You can run some sturdy. Just ran out of transmutes, to be honest. I didn't want to invest too many transmutes for all of this. So yeah, as far as the stats go, we are on our back bar. 33,000 Magicka, 30,000 max health, 18.5k stamina, 1,257 mag recovery. Now, the mag recovery does look low. I get that. But we are a Breton with cost reduction. We also have major heroism, which is a shit ton of ulti-gen, which is a crazy amount of sustain for a Magicka Dragonknight. It is a great set. Spell damage on the back bar, 1761, 34.9% crit. It's not bad. Our crits will be pretty good on our back bar. Crit healing will be nice. 64 points in the Magicka. Typically, I'm running Bewitched Sugar Skulls. I am normally a stage 3 vampire. You see, my vampire just ran out about 19 minutes ago. So I run stage 3 vamp, and the reason we run stage 3 vamp is for the undeath passive. So if you guys don't know what undeath is, reduces your damage taken by up to 30% based on your missing health. This is a tremendous survivability thing that you add, and this is the only way you can really pull off light right now, in my opinion. Like, I'm running Daedric Trickery on the back bar, so I do get the increased healing, and I do get the damage mitigation, but the undeath is what really helps. Like, undeath is what, you know, makes my survivability really nice with this setup, and I can pull it off because I'm wearing Trickery on the back bar and Major Heroism. So you guys have watched, you know, my gameplay. I have no problems with sustain running undeath. You know, the cost, you're going to have 9% increased cost of abilities running stage 3. But yeah, it's worth the trade-off in my opinion. If you don't want to go undeath and you don't want to do those sorts of things, you're going to have to switch your build to heavy armor. You can run Race Against Time. That way you're still pretty tanky, and you don't have to worry about the cost reduction. But the problem is the heavy versus light, you get more pen with light, and it's hard. You have to make some sacrifices with a no proc build in order to get kills. And so the goal is to try and finesse enough tankiness while also just pumping out as much freaking damage as possible. Those are things you don't have to worry about with procs and stuff like that. But yeah, with this type of build, these are the types of trade-offs you have to make, and this is what we're doing. So we're going stage 3 vampire for that reason. Like I said, you don't want to be vamp, craft it in heavy. You can make Daedric Trickery in heavy. You can run heavy. You can go 5-1-1. You can go 5-2. Whatever. Trainee comes in heavy. Trainee comes in light. You can mix and match it however you want. The heavy versus light debate will rage on. I prefer light for the damage. So yeah, stage 3 vampire is huge, and I am running the Lady Mundus Stone. Now, you don't necessarily have to run the Lady Mundus. You can run the Recovery Mundus if you so choose. You just have to, you know that you're blocking more. You're gonna have to be aware of your surroundings quite a bit. This type of mag DK is a lot of your damage mitigation is going to come from blocking things that you're supposed to block. And so if you're a newer player, this is going to be a learning curve for you. You know, before we had sets like Crimson and Earthgore and Troll King and Chokethorn and Engine Guardian that would just randomly proc and save our lives, we had to rely on blocking and using heal over times or heals in order to keep us alive. And so we would have to, through trial and error of getting shit on for years and years and years, you figure out what things you have to block and what things you can't block, you know, or you don't have to block, and how you know, sustain your stamina. And so the big thing is you could run recovery, you could run more spell damage here, you could run more pen here, depending on your skill level as a Dragonknight. You know, if you're a newer Dragonknight, I would highly recommend going Lady Mundus. If you're fighting larger groups like I am, you know, sometimes you can't CC break. That Lady Mundus extra little bit of resistances really does come in handy. It's the same, it's roughly the same resistances as Bloodspawn. You have it all the time. Yeah, it's quite nice, but like if you find that like, hey, you know, I don't necessarily need this, you could run the Recovery Mundus. You could run another Mundus. You could run the Ritual for even more healing if you so chose. But yeah, there's a lot of options here. I would probably, since we're running Balorg and we have a crazy amount of pen anyways, if you don't run the Lady, I would either run the Atro for the Magicka Recovery, or I would run spell damage, just so we have more spell damage, so our healing's a little bit bigger, a little bit more. So yeah, we're running Bewitched Sugar Skulls as well. This is just best bang for our buck as far as max stats go. Yeah, that's our character sheet on our back bar. If we go to our front bar, unbuffed, this is before Burning Spellweave, this is before Major Sorcery, 32,000 max Magicka, 28.8k health. You see how I have less health on my front bar, so when I go to the back bar, my coags will, you know, be a little bit thicker. 17, that's also, like I said, that's before our buffs, so before BSW. Procs, that's before Balorg. Procs will be over 3,000 spell damage with a shit ton of pen with this build. But yeah, as far as the skills go on the front bar, they are as follows. I'm running Engulfing Flames. You know, this is a decent dot, not the best in the world. You know, like I said, you know, Magicka dots just aren't that, dots in general aren't very good, but Magicka dots are way worse than stamina dots right now. But yeah, it's a cone in front of us, Flaming Blast to enemies, 56 flame damage, an additional 10,000 over 14 seconds. Affected enemies take more damage from all flame damage attacks based on your offensive stats, up to a maximum of 10% bonus damage taken. This, it says 7%, but with our major sorcery, with our BSW up, this will shoot higher than the 7% that it says it does. So anyways, this is just a nice damage buff. It's a small dot. You know, this is going to buff our other abilities. We're also running Ellie Drain. Ellie Drain is going to give us Minor Magicka Steel, which is a little bit more Magicka Recovery. You know, obviously you saw we had the 1276 for a stage 3 vampire, but this helps for our burst combinations. It also helps for our sustain, and it's a free to cast ability. This is a fantastic skill that basically you should try and fit on your bar for any small scale Magicka class. It's just that good. These two skills will amplify your damage quite a bit. Burning Embers, I've seen some DKs take this off, and I don't know how. This is one of your cheaper skills, and it's a cheaper heal than Coag. Excuse me. So this is not only a dot, but the longer this is on, this heals you for 98% of the total damage inflicted. So since we're doing a little bit more damage, you know, you cast this on a few people, you will get a very nice heal with this. Also, casting it on ads, you know, you'll get even bigger heals. It's a good skill worth having. It's very good single target pressure, but it's the survivability that you get with it. Now, I'm going to get some shit for this because I've already gotten it in my Discord. I'm running Degen for the Major Sorcery buff. Now, people have asked, you know, why don't you run Talons? And the reason I don't run Talons is as follows. Talons doesn't work against a lot of builds. You know, if you think about Mag Sorks, you're never going to keep a Mag Sork in Talons. The same thing with a Stam Sork. The same thing with any medium armor build. Anybody running forward momentum. Anybody running race against time. You know, any Nightblade running Shadow Image, all these different classes have some form of snare, readily available snare removal that just kind of eliminates the need for running Talons. Now in group play, I will take Degen off. I will put Talons on. It's really nice for crowd control. It's really nice to have a synergy. Like if you're running with a buddy that has a Harmony Magcro or a Harmony build, you know, the Talons obviously provide a synergy. There is certain situations where I will take Degen off and I will put Talons on, but when I'm running around solo, I do not run it. I run Degen because I want to max out as much spell damage as possible to hit as hard as possible. So that's what I'm running. That's why I'm running it. It also gives a decent dot. That's why I'm running it over like Molten Weapons. You could run Molten Weapons on the front bar as well, but Degen is really nice because you can cast it on people from a distance, and then you can go to your back bar and it'll proc your Daedric Trickery. So there'll be some times in fights where, you know, I'm just kind of, we're kind of dancing, you know, not dancing, but we're kind of dancing with the enemy. Like they're deciding whether or not they're going to come in and fight us, and we're deciding whether or not we should push in on them. Cast a couple things of entropy on a few people, go to my back bar, make sure, you know, I'm getting my major buffs. And when I get my major buffs, sometimes I get heroism, which builds my ultimate more, which, you know, the more ultimate I have, the harder my Balorg is going to hit. So then when I go in for my push, I'm going to be even burstier. And so that's why I'm running it that way. Like I said, you know, if you don't want to run degen and you want to run talons, run talons. You know, an extra dot isn't a bad choice. I just don't think it's currently effective against enough classes to really justify fitting that high cost skill on your bar. And so if you disagree with me and you say no, talons is incredible for survival and I'd like to hit talons and be able to line of sight and do all these other sorts of things, then run talons. I don't care. But that's why I'm running degen. Yeah, Molten Whip, once again, Molten Whip versus Power Lash, it kind of comes down to, you know, what you're running. And so my line of thought is, if I'm not running talons, you know, I'm not going to run the healing whip. You know, I'm going to run the higher damage whip. And yes, you know, I think this should honestly hit higher when we build our stacks. You know, it's not bad. We get up to a 13k tooltip. This is before BSW. This is before our entropy. So this will be 15, 17, 18. You know, after a battle arc, this could be in the 20k range. But yeah, it's a very nice tooltip that hits very hard. You know, once we get all of our stacks up, you know, we're going to be hitting people with this, and then we're going to be hitting people with embers anyways, so we'll naturally have 2 stacks anyways, and we just hit another stack before we, you know, do our full combo, and then that's how we really put out a ton of pressure, and that's why I'm running Molten Whip. But if I was running Talons, I would definitely consider Flame or Power Lash. They're just 2 slightly different playstyles. You know, if you're running Power Lash, you know, you would probably change your ultimates a little bit more. You'd be more of a brawler style, lock them down in Talons, drop your drop meteors or drop your standards and keep them really like crowd control sort of thing. That's a good play style. That's how Blat plays. It's very effective. This is more damage. You know, this is, you guys know I like to run damage, so this is what we're doing. We're running damage. So I'm running Molten for that reason. I don't need the heal on the front bar because my coegs are so thick. Like if you guys watch the gameplay footage from the last couple days, 13k 9 crit coegs. You know, I've hit 15k coegs. I've hit 14k crit coegs. My healing is quite nice. My cauterize is hitting me for 5 to 7k. Like cauterize is hitting a mag DK for 5 to 7k. My healing is really good right now, so I don't need the healing on the front bar like I used to, and so that's what we're doing. Still running Ferocious Leap on the front bar. Not the best ultimate in the world, but you know, when you're 1vxing or attempting to 1vx, this is going to be nice. You know, this is still going to be nice because it's so cheap. Meteor is nice, but because they nerfed fossilized range, this functions as a gap closer. Like you'll dot people up, you'll whip them, you know, and when nightblades try to dodge roll away, you leap on them. They can't dodge roll a leap, and that's how you shit on them. Like, and then you give them the CC, and then you give them the free whip afterwards, and that's typically how you kill nightblades. But yeah, you could run Meteor on the front bar. Like I said, it just doesn't have the range and it costs a lot more, but it's not a bad choice. You can obviously run Standard. Standard is definitely not a bad choice either. It's definitely one of the most powerful ultimates, you know, especially shifting Standard. It's definitely one of the most powerful ultimates that Dragon Knights have in their toolkit. I run this in group play, like I've shown before. It is a very, very powerful ultimate. It just kind of comes down to, you know, how your kind of play style is built. I'm built more around burst. You know, I'm bursting with Molten and Ferocious Leap, and so, you know, I got the burst instead of the dots. But if I was running Flame Lash and Talons, I would go Standard. Back bar, you can go back and forth between a few different ultimates. You can put Shifting Standard back here. You can put Meteor back here. You can run Magma Shell. Sometimes I run the Sigic ult when I'm running around solo, just for that little bit of extra damage mitt and the extra survival. You know, you run off, you hop off a tower, they all jump after you, you Sigic ult back up, you get that reprieve, you narrow it down, and, you know, Temporal Guard is a nice ultimate when it works. Fossilized, I have Fossilized on the back bar, and this is just an old habit. Like, it's better on the front bar, okay? But I am so used to playing Mag DK with Fossilized on the back bar that's where I run it. And back in the day when I was originally playing Mag DK, which isn't much different from now, but Stamina Nightblades used to hit stupid hard, like stupid hard, and they would jump on you and they hit you with an in-cap and they knock you down, and I would get up, and the first thing I would do is I would fossilize them, and then that would allow me to get off, you know, my heals and everything, and it was basically better used defensively because my dots and my damage when I went on the offensive, I didn't really need the CC because my leap was CCing anyways. Now, you can weapon swap, you can use the fossilize on the back bar, but that's how I built it, and I'm so used to fossilized on the back bar. Every time I try to put it on the front bar, it just feels weird. But If you're used to running fossilized on the front bar, run fossilized on the front bar. You know, don't switch to the back bar because I'm doing it. This is just old habits die hard sometimes, you know, for specific skills and abilities for me. Volatile armor, this is another way to buff your Daedric Trickery. You know, this is going to give you a major armor buff. Also, you know, anybody that it hits, you're going to do, there's another dot that's going to hit them. While this dot is ticking, you will also get potential procs for Daedric Trickery. So I think this is the better way to go. You could run the other one if you want to. But yeah, Elusive Mist. This is also why we're stage 3 vampire. Now, I've done multiple conversations talking about Elusive Mist versus Race Against Time. When you're running a block casting build, you know, when you're blocking a lot of incoming damage, here's my problem with Race Against Time in a nutshell. And I'll show it to you. Okay, so we put on Race Against Time, right? And we're fighting, and all of a sudden we take a really fat snipe and somebody drops a meteor on our head, and all of a sudden we see another guy come in with vampire ult, right? And we got to get out. We have to get out of all this pressure. We're not going to be able to block and heal through all of it. We need to avoid it, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to hit sprint and we're going to try and get out. But the minute we try to block any incoming damage, we lose our major expedition. And so although we're fast with this and we can kind of sprint away, if we're still taking damage and we still have to block cast, we're going to lose our major expedition, and it just kind of ruins running this. Now, in the past, you know, when I've run resto back bar, I like running Race Against Time because we can be fast and we can run hots. And so we don't have to block as much when we're running more heal over times. But, you know, on this type of build, you're going to be blocking more, and you don't get major expedition while you're trying to block cast. And so that's the issue with running Race Against Time. Vampire ult is obviously complete, or Vampire Elusive Mist is obviously completely different. So all of a sudden people drop a meteor on us and we're almost out of stam and we know we can't block it. We can just go into Mist form. The Mist form will absorb the meteor. And we're like, holy crap, people are sniping my freaking tits off. I gotta move. Now I can bounce over here. Now I can get in this corner. Okay, this isn't a good spot. Now I can get over here. And because we're stage 3, we get a huge cost reduction, and now we can come out blocking, and now we can line of sight once again if we have to, and now we've narrowed the fight down, and, you know, we're not getting hit by the things we were getting hit at before. I think Mist form works when it works. It's way better with block. Sometimes the skill bugs out. I hate that it bugs out, but Mist form saves me more than Race Against Time does. And so I'm going to continue running Mist form for that reason. It's super cheap, like I said, because we're stage 3. And so this will boost our survivability quite a bit. You know, we get our heroism buff. You know, this will allow us to just survive in Mist form for quite a long time, get our ults, try and turn and burn, and then reset the fight as needed, depending on how much we're getting zerged down by. Cauterize, like I said, you can switch these out. ESO math professor in the Discord, he's been running Flames of Oblivion. Flames of Oblivion is a great burst skill. You can absolutely front bar that, and I think that would work out really well. Nice little damage boost. Cauterize is really nice for support. Like I'm healing myself pretty well. It's a cheap skill, and like I said, it's healing me currently for like 5 to 7k per tick. And so what I'll do is, instead of slamming Coag twice, I'll slam a Coag and then I'll slam a Cauterize. And so instead of spending 8,000 Magicka, I'm spending, you know, under 6,000 Magicka. I'm getting pretty good healing. That normally tops me off. So if my health is a little bit lower and I know I don't need a Coag, you know, if I'm like at 60% health, I'll just hit a Cauterize or 2 Cauterizes, and that'll save me some resources, you know, for the investment that Coag won't. And then when I'm at lower health, when Coag's really coming through in the clutch, then I'll slam a Coag as needed, and I'll use it for that reason. But you don't have to run Cauterize. You can take this off if you want to. You can put Wings on. There are a few different options that you could run here. You know, Wings would be really nice AoE or range damage mitigation. You could absolutely run that. Like I said, other people have run Flames of Oblivion. This is just a flex spot, but I like having that support. Like if I'm playing in a duo, if you guys watch the tower fight with me and Snuff, there's times where he's getting ulti dumped and I'm just slamming Cauterizes because they're so cheap. You know, I'm slamming Cauterizes for him and I'm healing him 3, 5, 6k a tick. You know, and it's free healing that he wasn't expecting, and that even though it's not super high, it's worth slotting on the bar for that reason. Now, if this was only healing for like 1 to 3k, I'd take it off. But it's not. You know, this is actually a pretty good heal. And then, yeah, Coagulating Bud. They buffed this quite a bit. And I talked about this in a previous video, and I'm glad that they did it. But I did a video a while back talking about individual class heals. And I showed that Coagulating Blood is underperforming compared to other burst heals from Magicka classes in the game. And why that makes it problematic is because coagulating blood was so bad, that means that mag DKs had to invest in more recovery so that they could slam a worse coagulating blood more often so that they could survive, which then lowered their overall damage. What I said at the time was if they increased the value of coagulating blood, that means you could run less recovery. That means you could pump out more damage. Now, I don't think Magicka Dragonknight, I still think it needs to be brought up. I still think there's some buffs that you could do to, you know, like I would buff Molten a little bit so it's a little bit burstier than what it currently is. But coagulating blood change is nice. It's in line with other heals. You know, I think it's competitive and as good as other heals. Now, people have said like, oh wow, mag DK healing's insane when they watch my video. Keep in mind, it's coagulating blood plus major mending and vitality sometimes, and around to keep. And so my healing is going through the roof because I'm stacking all these modifiers. If you put Daedric Trickery on another class, like a necromancer or a pet sorc or something like that, your healing would also be stupidly crazy on those classes. If you put Trickery on a Stam spec, your healing would be crazy on those as well because you're stacking all these major buffs. And that's where things start to scale. So yes, coagulating blood is in a good spot. I just want to say that coagulating blood is in a good spot. It's competitive with other burst-based heals. But the reason my healing is so good is because I'm combining a good heal with major buffs. That's why the healing is so good. So feel free to run this on a Magplar or something like that where you're also missing out on these major buffs and see how high your Honor the Dead gets. See how high your Pet Sorc heal gets running Daedric Trickery on the back bar. It's going to get kind of silly for you. But yeah, silly in a good way, of course. So yeah, those are the skills. Now, as far as our champion points go, we are as follows: 1 into Siphoner, 61 Warlord, 27 Tenacity, 56 Arcanist, 56 into Mooncalf. I put a little bit in here. After talking to Blap a little bit, I like a little bit of Stam recovery and Mistform when I'm going around Mistform, just so I have that ability to, you know, have a little bit more Stam for breaking free. If you don't want to put this many points in, put it in Tenacity, put a few more in Arcanist, you know, either one. 66 into Shadow Ward, and the remaining 3 points into Tumbling. Occasionally we do dodge roll, but the goal is to block or use Mistform. You know, you don't want to be dodge rolling a lot with this build. You can, but dodge rolling is a last resort. We really want points into block reduction. Since we are running a Markarth band, we don't need to put points into critical damage. 56 Ellie Expert, 18 Spell Erosion. We already have a lot of pen. You know, we can have up 500 ult Balor gets 10k pen, you know, plus our light armor passive is another 4. We have 14k pen right there. Plus the Destro skill line passive is what, 3? I want to say it's 3. So that's 17k. Plus Major Fracture is 22k. Plus this, you know, we're looking at 23, 24, up to 24k pen. So we don't really need to stack a bunch into here. Also, Spell Erosion just isn't one of the better modifiers for damage. You're better off going other routes, and I will show you. 56 in an Ellie Expert. I have 49 in a Blessed. This is another thing that's stacking my healing. That's why my healing so good. I have quite a few points in a Blessed. We can do these sorts of things because we're running Markarth. 72 into Master at Arms, increasing your damage done with direct damage attacks. So my Leap and my Whip will get buffed by this. I want quite a few points in there for that reason. You don't need to put this many points in here, but if you're running a burstier build like this, I think this is invaluable. And then Thaumaturge, increase your damage done with damage over time effects by 23.4%. So we're increasing our dots with that. It also, 75, also unlocks the Exploiter passive. Increase your damage done against off-balance enemies by 10%. So when we hit them with a Fossilized, you know, we can get that off-balance proc. If we interrupt something, you know, if we bash a revive or something, we can get off-balance. Just a little bit more pressure in certain situations. These stack very nice with a DK for those reasons. 66 Ironclad, 34 into Resistant, 56 Hardy, 43 LA Defender, 28 in a Thick Skin, 43 in a Quick Recovery. Once again, increasing our healing quite a bit. So you see, I have all these different things scaling my modifiers for my healing, and that's why my healing is so good. So those are the champion points. Now, like I said, this is a harder build to play. You know, this isn't going, you know, if you're like, hey, I'm new to Mag DK, I want to try this. This is going to be a lot harder than running procs. You know, this isn't as much damage. You can't make as good of a build running a no proc build as running a proc build. I've said this quite a few times. You shouldn't intentionally gimp yourself in this game unless you want to. And I want to. Okay, this is how I like to play Mag DK. I don't like running procs on my Mag DK sometimes. You know, sometimes I just want to be a purist, all right? And I'm just kidding. But I just prefer playing without procs and a mag DK. Other classes I run procs, some classes I don't. You know, I go back and forth. This is what I'm enjoying, you know, and I found this to work well enough to where I'm having a lot of fun with it. Got some really fun clips with it. If you're like me and you like to run no proc builds occasionally and you want something that, you know, that's solid, you know, and you're just sick and tired of running procs, this is the type of route that I would go. You know, I think this works out really well. If you're looking for the best in slot open world Magicka Dragonknight build, it's not this. I'm sorry. It's good, but it's not that. You know, you're better off back barring a set like Crimson or Defending Warrior. You're better off front barring, you know, a set like Overwhelming Surge. You're better off running like Elfbane and Overwhelming and Grottar. There's a bunch of different options that you can choose. I'd personally go Crimson because that increased survivability on the back bar would be fantastic. Plus you can slot Markarth and then you front bar a set, like I said, like Overwhelming Surge. You run Talons, you run standard, and then you know, like I said, you backdoor yourself into running a set like Grottar, and now you have Markarth buffing Crimson, Overwhelming, and Grottar, and you have a bunch of AoE pressure just naturally. Your whips and your leaps aren't going to hit that hard, but who cares? You're just going to dot people down with your dots and procs, and it's going to be extremely effective. So that's my opinion. This is the build that I've been running. Like I said, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Daedric Trickery is a lot of fun. Like, I tried other sets, like you guys know me, and you know that it's very, very hard for me to not run a specific set, which is Arcasis. But if you're playing solo, this gives you great, like Daedric Trickery gives you so much ulti gen, it's competitive with Arcasis. And then on top of that, you get all this healing and you get this damage mitt, and yeah, and you get speed. It's like, okay, well, Arcasis is fantastic in a group play situation, don't get me wrong, but Trickery for solo is just better on a DK. It's just better. And so I hate admitting when a set's better than Arcasis, but this set's better than Arcasis for back bar, for especially for DKs. But it's going to work for a lot of classes. You know, if you're feeling like, hey, you know, I want to run a mythic and what are my back bar defensive set options? Trickery's up there. Trickery is really, really good. And so it's cool that they changed this. Yeah, we have a Daedric Trickery gang in the Discord if you guys want to, you know, do that. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, I was hopefully thorough and I answered everything that I could. Like I said, if I didn't answer anything, if I missed something, please provide in the section below and I will do my best to answer it. Yeah. Thank you for watching, guys.